Home Show.
Michael from Galveston has a question about a home restoration.
Yeah, he's a contractor, Tom, and he's working on this 1910 home. Take a look at this. He said, Michael writes, it has cedar siding on the exterior and shiplap on the interior with no insulation in between, right? He says the interior walls had sheetrock with asbestos, which has been abated and removed. But we found some old wallpaper and cheesecloth backing. So he wants to know, is it safe to put sheetrock back up without any insulation behind it?
It's actually why this old house lasted so long, especially in Galveston, because without the insulation, it's always breathing. And even if we get a lot of humidity and the fogs roll in and whatever the storms come, it always had a chance to dry out because nothing was trapping the moisture. So the answer is it's actually preferred on those old homes. Now, if you look at this picture, you're looking at the back side of the shiplap. Shiplap was the finished wall back then. And if you look at the wall framing, and he's probably already experienced this, it's not like framing today. So if you take that shiplap off, the whole wall will collapse. The shiplap is the strength of the wall, so you have to leave it on. It's like a gusset. It holds it all together. They didn't use headers and beams and things in the walls like we do today. So leave the shiplap alone. Now what people would do is there wasn't sheetrock back then or drywall. They would put wallpaper on the shiplap to cover up the gaps, to kind of keep the breezes from coming through, and of course give it a more finished look as opposed to painting this old shiplap siding. But you can leave it on, you can sheetrock over it. A lot of people do that, bring it up to date, and not insulate. I think it's a fine idea. In fact, if it was my house, I probably would not insulate. And here's the other factor. You have siding on the outside. You might have a sheathing package. If the city's getting involved, you're going to have plywood and siding on the outside with a moisture barrier in between like a Tyvek. Then you have the air cavity, which is about 3.5 to 4 inches. Then you have the shiplap. And then you have the sheetrock. And if you add those together, you have an R value. And that airspace has an R value too. So you still have some insulated qualities, but it'll all breathe and it'll continue to last another 100 years.
You used a word in there, and I don't know what it means. What's a gusset? You say it acts like a gusset. What is that?
It's like if you take plywood, the reason you use plywood on the outside as a sheathing package, it ties all the studs and the plates, it ties it all together so it acts as one piece. Okay. So it's a gusset because it holds it all together. Okay. If you took that off, those sticks would be all wobbly and flopping around and you wouldn't have any wind protection. But what a sheathing package is, it's a gusset. It holds things together. And so it's a big plate that goes over it and just pulls it. It's one piece of material that holds all the little pieces together to act as one.
So is that what they mean when they say balloon construction of a house, that it's like...
No, balloon was different. Back then, the first and second floor, they would take the stud and they would make it 16 or 20 feet long, and they would go all the way to the top. The floor was not, you wouldn't go to 8 foot, then put a floor on there, and then go another 8 foot. The wall was one continuous piece all the way up, and then the floor would hang from it. So they don't do that anymore because the lumber we have is young, and you can't really get nice, long, straight 20-foot studs. Back in the old days, that's how they figured to frame it, was 2 stories as one wall, and then you would just hang the wall, hang the floor on it, and you'd have a nice smooth surface on the outside, all held together by the shiplap, which was the gusset. It held the entire wall from bottom to top together as one.
Fascinating. It's amazing how it's changed, and part of it is, like you say, that you can't, that old growth lumber is gone, and they've had to adapt, I guess, to using shorter lumber because that's what's available.
It's shorter because it's straighter that way, and quite frankly, it's a better use of our forestry because we have a great forestry system in this country, and we can grow pine trees all day long just like corn. And we have more today than we did probably back in 1965. I'm sure you could check that and get pretty close to that year. But our forestry system has come a long way. Our farming system for lumber that we use in construction has come a long way. And a lot of people will say things, I just got to throw this in here. Yeah. They say, oh, well, don't use paper bags or cardboard boxes. It's a waste of trees. They don't cut the trees down for that. The trees are cut down for the 2x4s and 2x6s. But all the top little stuff, all the little limbs and everything, that's what they grind up and make bags and stuff out of because they use the whole tree like people who live on the land use the whole animal for food and everything else. And so they're getting the most out of the entire product. So it's actually quite environmentally sound. And of course, a paper bag will go back to Mother Earth in a period of weeks and not years, which is nice.
Unlike the plastic bags that you carry.
Made by oil.
Made by oil and probably shipped in from China. Okay, that's enough. We're moving on. You have a question? We'll be happy to avoid all political discourse. Just go ahead and send us your home improvement questions at HomeShowRadio.com. Use the Ask Tom form. Fill it out, send it, and we'll answer it like this. We'll post them on our website, HomeShowRadio.com, our YouTube channel, and, of course, Facebook. Sure appreciate it if you follow us there.